Are you ready to listen to my dad Joe and Uncle Justin talk about sports? Now on with the show!
The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop, which have been serving the greater West Lawn area delicious food for over 70 years. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
Boring.
A weekly podcast about sports since 2011.
Don't you ever get tired of being wrong all the time?
With a focus on football.
Sue, late in his career, is going to have his first Super Bowl title. Now, no wonder they want to call it Tampa Bay. Or Tampa Brady. One more snap, would you have guessed when this impossible season was trying to launch that you'd get it all in, you'd get to Tampa, and when the Super Bowl ended, the ball would be in the hands of Tom Brady.
I don't know why we ever think it won't.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a second Super Bowl title in franchise history.
And Tom Brady doesn't pass the torch quite yet to Mahomes, does he? Even though
you're looking at the greatest right there.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff. All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays. I am not here with Justin this evening or this morning. This is an odd time for me to be doing a show. Justin's unavailable, but I'm not here alone. I will momentarily introduce our guest, but I hope everyone had a fabulous Christmas. Here we are in between the holidays as we approach New Year's, but the football season goes on as we are deep into the 2021 NFL season. We're going to talk this evening, no, not this evening, this morning, I'm never going to get used to that, about NFL's Week 16, which just completed, and NFL Week 17, which is coming up. But my guest here this morning, I got it this time, is a local high school football coach, one I've gotten to know pretty well over the last couple of years. Wyomissing Area Spartans offensive line coach, Steve O'Neill. Steve, thank you for joining me this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's really great to have you here. We've been trying to get together on a show for about the past year. I was glad I was able to convince you to come on here and talk football. Justin and I are in the middle of discussing the end of the NFL season, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. If people are watching, you can see Steve's got his Denver Broncos hat on.
Yep.
I know Steve to be a Denver fan since we met a couple years ago, and we have a lot to talk about. And NFL will be part of it. We might save that for the end, though, because Steve is a football guy through and through. And high school is his first love, but he has a big knowledge of the game. He played in college, and right now he is talking with collegiate recruiting coaches because of his position with Wyomissing. So we have a lot to talk about. We're going to dive into everything. We'll talk Wyomissing, we'll talk recruiting, we'll talk college, we'll talk pro football. Wherever the discussion takes us, that's where we're going to go.
Sounds good.
But first off, I'm going to throw you for a loop immediately because they didn't mention this to you, but I don't think it'll be difficult for you. Unfortunately, yesterday we found out that John Madden passed away. And I'm sure you and I are close enough in age that we grew up listening to him be one of the best broadcasters with Pat Summerall, absolutely. Yeah. Did you get to watch All Madden that debuted on Christmas Day?
Actually, I forgot about it, but I have it taped. I recorded, and I'm going to. Now it's going to mean a little bit more with his passing, unfortunately. But I am going to watch it. Yes.
Yeah,
I have not yet.
It's very good. It is very good. It's about an hour and a half or so. Amazing.
It was Christmas Day, right?
It was. Yeah, it was like Christmas Day afternoon. I recorded it because I knew I wouldn't be around, and I didn't want to miss it because John Madden is a guy that every generation of football fan associates with football, coach, broadcaster, and the video game. You know, it really covers 40 years.
Young people don't even know how good what he did before the game. They just associate with him, the game, don't even know.
Yeah, that current generation is all about the game, the video game. And you and I kind of overlapped when the game became big, you know, that we were at the point where we already knew him as a broadcaster, but like our parents, our grandparents, they all know him from coaching with the Raiders. And I didn't realize that he retired so young from coaching. I you know, it's not something that I was familiar with because I wasn't a Raiders fan. Yeah. I know you're definitely not a Raiders fan.
Not a Raider fan.
But growing up listening to him broadcast games, you knew it was a big game when he and Pat were on the call.
Yeah.
But All Madden is excellent, so I hope you get to watch it on DVR. For those of you that haven't seen it, I hope you can track it down. I kept it on my DVR. Usually I watch it and delete something. I was just like, you know what, I might keep this on for a bit. And then a day later we find out that he passed away. It did say unexpectedly, so it's a real shame. But leading up to the broadcast of All Madden, there was an article on The Athletic about the creation of the documentary. And I thought it was amazing and they talked about this at the beginning and end of the article about how you contact people.
What was the focus of the show? Was it everything?
Was
it coaching?
Everything. So it's
game?
Almost split up in like 10, 12-minute segments, probably meant for television. But they start with his early days and coaching the Raiders, and then his retirement and what does he want to do, because he did want to do broadcasting. He wasn't interested in that.
Okay.
Then he gets into broadcasting, and people are a little bit standoffish about it because he's so different. He's such a big personality. But then when he gets there and becomes himself, everyone knows that he's changing things, and this is the way people want him to go. And then he becomes the number one guy. Pat didn't necessarily want to work with him at first, but obviously that worked out for everyone involved. They talk to, and that's the great thing, is they talk to so many people. They don't focus on any one person talking about his life. And John doesn't have a lot of speaking moments in the documentary. They let archival footage or the people talk about John. John talks a little bit, but not a lot. But they mentioned in the Athletic article about the creation of All Madden how they reached out to, I think it was 38 people. And when you do a documentary, you reach out to people thinking you're going to get maybe 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3, because people are just like, I don't have the time for that. Every single person they asked to talk about John Madden for All Madden said yes immediately. And you're not talking about just like random people from his life. You're obviously going to get family members that are going to volunteer and want to talk. His wife's on there. His sons are on there. But they reached out to the biggest names in football, and they all immediately said yes. You get interviews with Joe Montana, with Brett Favre, with Peyton Manning. Lamar Jackson's in there at the end. They have Bill Belichick on there. It's just they went to the biggest and best from more recent football history, mostly from 90s to present. But they talked to Bob Costas, because I didn't realize that was the first game that John Madden ever did for the NFL was with Bob Costas. There's awesome information in there. There's great clips, great video, great pictures. It's definitely worth your time to check out. But I just wanted to mention that the passing of John Madden as it rocks the football world.
It doesn't surprise me that all those people want to be involved. He was such a promoter of the game and such a voice for the game.
Well, and that's what kind of resonated throughout the documentary, was how loved he was, not just because of his personality, his attitude, but his actions too, and that he was so kind to everyone he met. They roll up to places, he'd get off the bus, which that's a focus too. They talk about the Madden Cruiser, and obviously about the video game. But when he would get off a place, he's larger than life. Everyone recognizes him, and he stops to talk and sign autographs for everyone. Whenever he would do a sit down with production crew or teams, like he was just kind of like a big teddy bear. He was always so grateful and graceful in everything he did. So that's really nice to hear. That was great to hear about him. And so it's unfortunate that we lost him yesterday, and I felt we should mention it off the top of the show, the passing of John Madden. So definitely, if you haven't seen All Madden, the documentary that I think it was on Fox, I want to say.
I believe so, yeah.
Definitely check it out, track it down if you can, and if it becomes available, if you're a football guy, it's definitely one you might want to have in your collection, because it has really awesome content. All right, so Steve, let's start with a little bit about you now. I know some, but I'm going to let you tell everyone that's listening. Just introduce us to yourself, where you're from, where you've been, and we'll go from there.
I'm from Berks County, obviously.
Born and raised.
But I had a little view of Berks County. I grew up in Conard-Weiser until 4th grade. I went to Reading for 2 years, 5th and 6th, and I ended up moving to West Reading in 7th grade. Ended up at Wyomissing. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. And then I went to Westchester to play football as well. Graduated there. Moved to Annapolis for 2 years, which I loved. And I would have stayed in Annapolis. I'm sure you've been to Annapolis before. You can't beat that town. The only reason I would have came back was for a Wyomissing job. And 2005, an opening came at the elementary school. I threw my name in, one of 1,200, and got the job. And first thing I did when I got back, I called Coach Wolfram. I said, Coach, I don't know what you need. I don't know if you want me. I'll do anything. I just want to give back to the program that helped me, stay focused in school and helped me get to Westchester on a partial scholarship. Wyomissing football changed my life, so I wanted to give back in some way. And he said, yeah, you can come in, help us right here on varsity with the O-line, D-line, and the rest is history. And here we are, 2021, and getting ready for 2022, and been doing it ever since.
Yeah, the work never stops.
No, it never stops.
So there's a lot in there I want to dive in, just pick a little bit, because you glossed over your playing days at Wyomissing. So you weren't just a guy on those Wyomissing teams. You were pretty established. People probably picked that up because you got to play at Westchester. If you're playing college, you probably were a pretty good high school athlete.
Yeah.
But you had a pretty good career for the Spartans. Tell us about some of your accolades you were given when you were a player. And obviously offense, defensive line, we're talking, yeah?
Yes. I didn't know it at the time. I was the first lineman to get moved up as a 9th grader for Wyomissing. Freshman year didn't go the way I wanted. I broke my wrist a couple weeks in. But I will say to anyone, regardless of program, if you have the opportunity to move up as a 9th grader, do that. The experience I had going through that as a 9th grader, in my mind, going into 10th grade, I had no doubt I was going to do everything to get on the field. And I was ahead of all my friends who were down on junior high.
Because you got that extra year up on varsity.
Even though I only got to play the first 6 weeks, camp in the first 6 weeks till I broke my wrist, I knew what to expect. And I was ahead of the curve. And I think that was the best thing that for me. And then having Wyomissing Hall of Famer Mike Lewandowski, who's still got all the school records for strength. He's a senior when I'm a sophomore. Ross is a junior when he's a grade ahead of me. Pete Orwig's going to James Madison. So we had a run of big linemen at this time, and that was great for me as being the sophomore.
Learning how it's done by the guys in front of you, learning by example.
Correct. And those guys, the work ethic. I in strength class as a sophomore, I'm stuck with Mike Lewandowski, who's benching 405.
Yeah.
Like, I had no choice. I got to up my game, just not on the field, but in the weight room. So I started as a sophomore. I was the only, sophomore that started that year. We beat Mifflin that year, the only time we ever beat Mifflin. I know you guys like that on this show.
Well, yeah, that's right. Anytime you can talk to a show with me and Justin and you can bring up beating Mifflin, we're going to appreciate that. So thank you.
So I thought you'd appreciate that on the Bulldog Hour. So I started as a sophomore, got all league as a junior, second team all county. Then I got senior year, I got all county, both ways, all league offensive and defensive lineman of the year. Offensive lineman of the year for the county. A Bulldog got the defense. I wanted to sweep. My goal was to sweep.
Yes. And do you remember who got that?
Ethan Whelan?
Yeah, Whelan.
He got the defensive lineman of the year. I'm still bitter
about it.
Yeah,
I think I was doing some research for a Bulldog Hour entry what you were what was your fall senior year? Was
97.
97.
Yeah.
Yes. So when I was going through my 90s on Bulldog Hour archive, I was going and I got to fall of 97. And, I was trying to grab the All-Burks and the county selections and stuff like that. And I'm looking through and I see you on there on the offense, and it made sense because I knew you as an offensive line coach. And it's like, yeah, there he is, and lineman of the year. And then I go to defense. I was like, oh, he's first team defensive line too.
I always saw myself as a better defensive player.
Oh, you thought you were better defensive
I started
player.
defense as a sophomore.
Okay.
I didn't play offense till my junior year.
Okay.
But then I moved to guard my senior year, and I took to guard in our offense. I don't know I know you know.
Yeah.
But those that don't know, for our wing T, our guards are pulling.
Moving all the time.
And I was the lead guard, and I just took to it.
Just loved it.
And that's why I was an all-state guard, not a defensive lineman where I was a 3-year starter. I was a 2-year starter on offense, and then I got all-state to end my senior year.
Well, excellent. That's what I want to make sure we talked about. Everyone knows who we're talking about, or how we're going to talk here. Steve knows what he's talking about, is what I'm trying to say. So as we talk a little bit about more high school football and recruiting and stuff, Justin and I think we know what we're talking about, but Steve definitely knows what he's talking about. So you had played on some really good Wyomissing teams, and you got to play for Coach Wolfram, and now you get to coach with Coach Wolfram. You started coaching in the fall of 05, did you say?
05, yeah.
05, so that was your
first
first
year.
So, wow, yeah. So you just completed your, 17th year then?
Yeah, I'm one of the lowest on the totem pole.
I was going to say, thinking about that, you're at 17 years with the Wyomissing coaching staff, and you're not at the top. You're not close.
I'm near the bottom.
You're near the bottom.
I'm near the bottom.
Well, I mean, and that's one of the things that I think the greatest programs, not just in Berks County, in the state, around the country, are going to have that program continuity. At least when you're taking out these all-star teams that can just bring in whoever, whatever, We're not going to touch on that. We're not going to divert into that discussion. But when you're talking traditional high schools, when you think about the football teams that you see, the programs on the movies and television shows, there's legacy involved. And that's something that is taken hold at Wyomissing, and you're great evidence of it. You played there, were a star there, came back. You're there for nearly 2 decades, and you still aren't at the top of this coaching staff, because you guys come and they stick around because it's an important part of the community.
And there's guys that have had opportunities to leave and become higher up on the coaching chain, but they have no interest. And just like I don't have any interest. I had an opportunity to leave once or twice, and that's not why I'm in it.
Right.
I'm not in it to go be the head coach, and I'm in it for the kids in the school that did so much for me.
Right.
That's what it's about, and everybody on our staff.
Yeah, and it's that sense of pride and community, and what they gave to you, you want to help pay back.
Correct.
And that definitely has taken a hold in and around Berks County for a variety of schools, for many schools, but Wyomissing is definitely one at the forefront that it just sticks out. So you played 4 years on the varsity team. You've now coached for 17 years with the varsity squad. I want to talk about some of your favorite moments or games that you've been a part of with the Spartans.
Well, I'll go back, and I'll even before I came to Wyomissing.
Okay.
This is back when I was still living in Wilmsdorf for Connor Weiser. My uncle played for Wyomissing.
Okay.
So I've been coming to Wyomissing games since 1986. So that's how far.
All right. Yes, you do have much more of an exposure than I thought you had.
Correct. So it's not just when I came to Wyomissing in 7th grade. No, I was already.
You were there tangentially. You were
correct.
Related to the program.
I sat with my grandparents and watched
the game. Yep.
So. It goes back further than that. I just thought I would add that little.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Well, I knew, as a student from 7th grade, we're talking, early to mid 90s on. You probably have a wide knowledge of the Wyomissing program, but it goes back a decade farther. So,
correct.
Well, what are some games that stand up that you watched, participated in, coached in? Good or bad? It's just the games that you always think of when people mention Wyomissing football.
I mean, obviously, going to go to 2012. That's first, the state championship. That will always, because it was the first ever, it's still, unfortunately, still the only Berks County state title. Thought this year we might get another one out of us or Mifflin, but didn't happen. So that's number one, obviously, is the state title.
Is the state championship game itself the one you remember most from that season? Because that was a close game, was 17-14?
17-14.
And was that Clairton?
No, that was Aliquippa.
Aliquippa. Okay, I knew it was somewhere out there. I couldn't remember which squad it was. Aliquippa. Okay.
Yeah, it's probably a lot in that year. The Imhotep, because no one thought we'd go down to Philadelphia and win that game.
Yeah, that was the one that I was thinking about, because I remember that was a year that Wilson and Wyomissing made it to the state semis together, and you guys played Imhotep, and we went and played in 2012. It was North Allegheny.
That was a tight one, right?
And that was not, unfortunately.
2014 was a tight one.
Yes, that was
both
Pioneer.
Lost.
Yes,
Like within minutes, I think.
Yes. 2012 North Allegheny. We scored on the opening kickoff, and then only got a field goal the rest of the way. That was an incredible North Allegheny team. That was
the
same.
Like a little quarterback or something.
Yeah. I think his name was Leftwich. No relation. But. He was very good, but they just were stocked and stacked. Incredible team. Very, very good team. That was the same day that you guys played Imhotep, or the same weekend. I don't know if it was the same day or not. I guess it probably were both Saturdays if it's the state semifinals. But I just remember hearing, probably from, no, this was 2012. This is before I knew you, so. Somewhere, it could have been Red Eagle articles.
Mm-hmm.
I was just saying about how Imhotep basically was saying it was basically like a shoo-in, like it was almost like a buy, and I was just like, what are these guys doing? They clearly don't know enough about Berks football.
And then it got out in public.
Well, that's what I mean.
There were things out in public before the game.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe.
Not that our kids were already motivated enough, and then they gave us extra ammunition.
Right. I get frustrated when I see student athletes put stuff like that out there. I get really, really upset if it ends up being a Wilson guy. Thankfully, I haven't run into that too much over the last 12 years, but you just see some of these things that people will say and do, and social media has made it much easier and much worse for that. But just that they would think that was going to be a simple game. And you beat them pretty good, too. It wasn't even like you had I'm sure there was scraping and clawing, but you ended up 35-13. Okay, I was going to say it was 42-20 or something like that, but I knew you beat them by a good amount. So that should have been hopefully a humbling experience for them.
You know what? The fans were rough on us coming in and out pregame and halftime. After the game, good game, guys. Yeah. Go get them.
Respect earned.
It was the crowd and the completely flipped. It was nice.
Yeah, when you're involved in that, when you're a player or a coach, and you can completely flip expectations, that is one that you don't forget.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a run in 2012. State championship, like you said, the only Berks football team to take home the hardware. From Hershey in the peak. You've had quite a run the last 2 years, making it back. Central Valley, tough ones, both the last 2 years. I think this year for you, from an outsider perspective, and I think you heard this in everything you can read or write or watch, people were a little bit, I don't want to say down, but didn't think you could match 2020.
Correct.
Because you lost so much. You lost so much from that great 2020 team. Came up just short against Central Valley State Championship, but the talent that you lost, you got to replace so many guys. And then this year, at least matched, by many standards, what you did last year. Tell me, what did you see it coming with Wyomissing this year? Did you know the talent in the pipeline or the kids that were going to step up in a big way? Could you see it coming from being inside the program?
Correct. Yes.
You knew you were ready.
It was tough. The team before 2 years ago. Yeah. I guess 3 years.
Fall of 2020.
The Max Hurlman team.
Yes.
We lost in the the state quarterfinals.
Okay, fall 2019.
After we beat Middletown, finally got over the Middletown hump.
Yep, that had been a battle between you guys for a number of years.
And that Middletown team was very good. They were still peak Middletown.
Was that with Lopez?
That was Lopez his junior year, Lopez senior year, but they still had a lot of other pieces besides him. We finally got over that hump in 19, and I think we underachieved.
Okay.
Because we lost to a Tamaqua team that lost to North Schuylkill and Pottsville, both teams we beat.
Okay.
I think we couldn't come off that Middletown win and refocus for Tamaqua.
Okay.
But that team, we only had, on defense, there were only 3 seniors starting. On offense, there were only 4 seniors starting.
So you knew 2020 was set up in a big way.
So we knew 2020 was going to be the year. So all these guys from this year's team, there was no room to get on the field.
Right.
Because we had 8 and 7 starters that were a lot of 3 and 4 year starters. Evan Nadrowski, a name I know you guys will know.
Very familiar.
Has been on the field since 9th grade. Zach Zeckman was on the field since 9th grade. Darren Bruner was on the field since 9th grade. Among others in that class from last year. So there was no spots to get on the field.
Okay.
But we knew they were like most other years, this year's team, they would have been on the field, but there was no room for them. So we knew we had a good group coming that just didn't get a chance. And they did and exceeded probably everybody's expectations. But we had a feeling we could make a run again.
And that's the only place where it needs to be known, especially at the start of the season. Because you kind of, I'm sure you agree that you want to go in as underdogs. You want people to doubt you. It's a great exterior motivation.
Took that,
you grab it and run with it.
Aiden Mack, Amory Thompson, Nevin Carter, and Tommy Grabowski, they're the 3-year starters that started since that sophomore run. They heard the noise. They heard Wyomissing's going to take a step back, and they embraced it. And they put that on their back, on their shoulders, and ran with it.
Well, I mean, it was incredible to watch from the outside the last couple of years because, of course, as soon as I said, hey, I want to come over and photograph a game, then COVID hit and I wasn't allowed to come by last year. And then this year, Wilson went much farther than I think people expected, and I was tied up with that. And by the time I was ready to head to your games, you guys weren't local anymore.
Yeah.
So hopefully this coming year, hopefully fall of 2022, that'll happen.
Well, and I normally try to make at least one Wilson game a year because I'm just a high school fan. Couldn't because of COVID.
Yeah.
And then the game I had planned on all year that matched our schedule was Manheim Township.
Yep.
But I wasn't coming out in that rain that night.
No, it was awful. I don't blame you at all. That was unfortunately also Wilson's senior night this year, so I stayed on the field. I had dressed for the occasion. I just didn't have the proper footwear. It eventually bled through. I stuck it out to get the pictures for the players and the families, but when the game come, I had to go upstairs because I was worried for my camera equipment.
Yeah.
I can't ruin this expensive camera to get these shots, but I got some cool ones from up in the box, which was fun, and then went back downfield for the end of the game. Thankfully, a Wilson victory. That was awful. That was one of the worst weather experiences I've had at a football game, especially a high school football game. I've sat through cold and wind, but the rain was just torrential and nonstop.
Yeah.
Very thankful you guys were playing the next day, not in those elements. So, yeah, I'm hoping for a good 2022. I know we're barely finished with 2021, and we're already looking ahead to 2022. But that's how we operate.
Oh, I'm going to open the weight room right after this is over for the kids.
I don't doubt it in any capacity. So, yeah. So, I mean, incredible back-to-back seasons for you guys. That can be said pretty much every year. What a phenomenal season the Spartans had. I love seeing the updates following online on Twitter. From the beat writers or just fans of everything happening. Love when people post pictures and videos. It's so great to see that there's so many people out there doing that. So you're rattling off those names, and I like that I know all of those names because I was keeping as close connection to Berks football as I can. And it was Wyomissing and Mifflin for most of the season. So I know way more names from high school athletes than I normally do that aren't Wilson Bulldogs.
That's the same as me. I learned through. I go when I can. I saw Mifflin. I saw Exeter this year. I saw Berks Catholic this year. I didn't get to my Wilson game. I'm just a high school fan.
Right.
I love high school football, and I will go if there's an opportunity. I'm going to go watch someone play if it's going to be a good game.
Right.
But I know social media is great. I know more. I know more of your guys than I normally would know. And
that's great. I mean, it allows people to feel more close to their team, to other teams.
I've already got my eye on the LL.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I've already been looking the teams that are going to be in our section next year. Who's getting what? I'm already eyeing that.
You can always check it out. They got the Twitter profiles, the huddle video, everything's there for you, which is great. I love this modern times that we're living in of what we're able to see and do. It's just phenomenal. The one game that I was planning to go to last year was when you were supposed to host Southern Columbia.
Yeah.
And that game, because of COVID, got scrapped. But you got to go there this year. And again, I feel like that was another one where most people were doubting you. Most people, because I am on record saying that I had no doubt in my mind that you guys were going to win.
Paul also.
Yeah. I mean, there were people out there, and maybe like Berks County knew or thought that way, but I feel like most of the state, because Southern Columbia is a statewide phenomenon because of what they've been able to do. If you're a high school football fan, a Pennsylvania high school football fan, you know Southern Columbia. I don't know up until that game if more people outside of South Central PA knew Wyomissing. Maybe they did. I'm not trying to sell you short by any means. No. But Southern Columbia, just because of what they've been able to rattle off, the winning streak, I think it was a national winning streak, right? Which you guys ended.
Correct.
And I think that's a moment where people went, whoa. But there were definitely people in here, not Wyomissing Spartan faithful, that were like, Wyomissing's winning that game. And you did.
We did, yeah. That was probably one of the best weeks of practice we had all year. Not that the kids weren't locked in all year, because they were, but to a different degree.
Yeah. Flip the switch, hit that different level.
They wanted. It's unfortunate we didn't get to play them the year before on our field, because that would have been awesome. And who knows if we would have won? I believe we would have won last year. But not having it was a blessing because their streak continued.
Went even
so
farther.
Then they ended up being one away from the state record, tying Clarendon for the 66 game. So it's sitting right there. They beat us. They tie the state record. We'll forever be in the history books. Who did Southern Columbia beat to tie the record?
Right.
But we got to take that away. So it was a blessing we didn't play last year. It was a great environment. That's another one. The fans stick out. They knew we lost in the state final the year before.
Oh, okay.
So their parking lot was filled when we got there early. We're there early. And our first group, we take our guys' groups out at time. I don't know. I think Wilson does the same thing by groups.
Yep. We got 3 groups.
So my group doesn't come out till last. The lineman group doesn't come out till last. So I'm standing in the parking lot watching. Every one of our groups that come out, they had this large portion of fans off to the side near their locker room. Here come the runners up. Here come the runners up.
Oh,
and then as soon as the Southern Columbia group would come out, the champs are here. The champs are here. It was awesome because every single time this group would do the same thing to our guys and the same thing to the Southern Columbia kids. It was like everyone was it was hype. It was a hyped experience.
When you're the one getting that thrown at you, and that's all in good fun. I mean, there's ribbing there, and they're meant to get under your skin. But to me, and as a player, and then now as a coach, I don't like that from the Southern Columbia. Not to say it's a Southern Columbia thing, but like the example you just gave. If I'm Wyomissing, I'm thankful for that.
Yes.
Just like, when Wilson was struggling this year and we'd go places and they would want to get on us, I'm like, thank you. Like, we shouldn't need the motivation, but they're high school kids. The focus is everywhere. if you get them in the here and now, I appreciate that. So
Yeah.
thank you. You know, once we started league play and we're sitting at 2-3 and people are doubting that, can we do this? And they're all chirping at us, bringing up whatever, you know, what Mifflin, Exeter, whatever. Thank you. Like, I appreciate that. But on the flip side, I don't want to hear my student section yapping at the visiting team ever.
I was getting pumped up, and I'm not even going.
You're not going out there, right?
So now I know that my guys are getting excited.
Yep.
Because they're listening, they're watching. You know, I saw them. They're looking over. They're leaning their ear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was getting excited, so I know they were.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So Justin and I do our best, and I think we've done it, to not ever give a Wilson opponent ammunition from something we say on the Bulldog Hour, because we do not want to be those guys. That is not where we want to be, because we don't want to impact. You know, we don't want the coaches to be like, "Why did you say?" You know, that's not us. We want to be Wilson positive, but you know, opponent appreciative. You know, and respectful. And we know we did our job this year, because we were contacted after our Central York Recap Harrisburg preview by a Harrisburg parent or coach or both, to say he was looking for bulletin board material and we didn't give him anything. So I was like, mission accomplished. But so you are in the thick of things right now. You know, longtime offensive line coach. You've been around the blocks to finish your 17th season. Have you ever been more involved in collegiate recruiting for one of your players than you are right now?
Never. I've kind of, I'm the social media guy for Wyomissing football, much like you are for Wilson. So I've kind of taken that lead, and I'm the first line of contact. Coaches get to me, can you give me information on so, and whoever it might be. But it's never been like this because of Jayvin.
Mm-hmm.
A big time, bona fide Division I offensive lineman. So these coaches want to talk to me first before they talk to Coach Wolfram. So I've been on the phone, you name it, and I've probably been on the phone with them because of Jayvin.
For college football fans listening or watching us, you're probably thinking, oh, a college prospect, big-time prospect. Oh, wait, he's just talking to him. That means Jayvin is back for another year. You have Jayvin for an entire another year. First you get him track and field season, then it's going to loop around for his senior year at Wyomissing. How did his recruitment blow up for you? What was the catalyst? What was the one big thing at the beginning of this year that made him explode into what he has become?
I have been telling people since last December. I don't know if you follow Ed O'Brien.
I do.
And
Cleasy. I know Cleasy.
And he does his little combines and his little camps and whatever, and I contacted him about one of his camps, and I said, I got a kid I want to get to your camp because I think this kid is going to be a monster. You know, at that point he was 6'4", 280, but can move
as a soph.
And here's the funny story: he should only be a junior next year.
Wow!
He just turned 16 at the start of the football season.
Oh.
He's going to graduate at 17 years old, so he's young for his grade. And I hit up Ed O'Brien about the camp, and I said, Ed, I want you to take a look. I know you evaluate kids. I said, in my mind, this kid is going to be a Division I player. I go, this kid can move. He's athletic.
He has the size.
He's got the size already. He's got the work ethic. He wants to be great. And he went to his camp, and he's like,
yes.
He's like, this kid he's
Nailed
got it. He's like, he doesn't have the pass pro because we don't drop back like you guys do.
Right.
But you can see he has athletic ability, all the athletic ability in the world. And, that kid worked, hit the weight room, then spring came around, third place, and should have won maybe some state titles. But he's top 5 in the country in both shot and discus. Both. That doesn't happen.
Both of them.
And then he continued to work. Now he's 6'4", 310 pounds, 6'5", maybe. And you can just see he's different in his athletic. A big guy shouldn't, and he doesn't look like he's not a sloppy 310. Right. He is a good 310 with room to build. Like, I don't even know what he's going to weigh when he goes to college. He has
that frame.
He's got so much room to build on. But when the fall came, those first 4 games, we got a highlight together, worked with Ross Tucker, and, for Go Big, and got his highlight film together the first 4 games, and that was it. That was all.
I mean, he got, how many did he get in like just a short period of time? I know you were posting about him, and I'm just retweeting. Like, I'm just like, this is ridiculous.
It was like 8 in like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, it was amazing to watch. It really was. It was cool, and to have a young high school student athlete all of a sudden just burst onto the scene where everyone wants you, and then he's gonna have his choice of where to continue his collegiate or his football and academic career.
Mm-hmm.
Just unfathomable. Now, who was the first big-time coach to reach out to you?
Pitt.
Pitt was the first one. Did you
Coach,
talk to
Coach Sanders? Coach Sanders.
The Pitt. Oh, is he the offensive line coach?
No, he is the
or offensive recruiting.
He recruits this area.
This area for Pitt. Okay.
I think he might be the running back coach. I can't remember, but he was the first coach that I talked to.
Okay.
And he's like, Coach, I just want to let you know, in about 10 minutes, we're going to call Jayvin and offer him a scholarship. And I was just like, I mean, this is just a couple days after his film went out.
Yeah.
Like, not a week.
And at that point, you knew there was probably a windfall coming.
Correct.
For him. Because once Pitt offered, like you said, he got 7 more in like 3 days or something like that. And I mean, you can pretty much name them if he either has them or he's going to get them. Those big time colleges that he might not have yet are not going to wait and just sit around.
No. He's starting to get into the SEC now.
Right.
Nothing out west or Big 12, but I'm
not. How involved have you been with Jayvin's aspect of it? Like, I know you're kind of the go-to because you're his positional coach before you get to Coach Wolfram. Has Jayvin come to you to talk about things he wants to see, interests that he has? Like, how is your relationship with Jayvin in terms of the recruiting aspect?
We are very close. We just actually talked a couple days ago. But I don't I'll share. I don't want to influence.
Right.
This is his decision.
Yes.
If he asks about a school, I will tell him what positives and negatives I see, what this school has done. Obviously his long-term goal is to hopefully go to the NFL.
Right.
Has this school produced NFL players? What kind of... So I'll talk about that. I'll talk about distance. How far are you willing to go away? Right. Think about your family coming to your games.
Yep.
All those things are important. So I just give him a neutral. I don't try to sway one way or another, and I give him just my honest opinion.
Sure.
Without trying to sway him one way or the other. And I know he values my opinion, and Ross is a great. So it's the three of us kind of working together. And I talk to his dad all the time. I talk to Jayvin's dad. We're very close. And his older brother, Richard, who graduated in last year's team. So I'm very close to the whole family. So they value my opinion, and I value theirs. And they know that I have always done anything and everything I could do to help Jayvin to get where his goals are.
What was Jayvin's reaction when the Pitt offer came in?
He didn't tell me immediately, but he was in tears.
Yeah.
What I thought was going to happen happened, but it happened in a much quicker time frame.
Yeah.
I thought that after he had a monster season, which he did.
That's when they would roll in.
Then he would put the film out, and then come after this year's recruiting cycle was over.
Right.
Then like January or February, when they start focusing on the 2023s, then I thought the Pitt and Penn State would come. I had no idea
8 in 3 days or whatever.
and after week 4 that it was going to start already.
Well, a lot of the teams, and I'm a huge Penn State fan,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the awesome articles written by Audrey Snyder, who's the Penn State writer for The Athletic, for the Penn State stuff on The Athletic, she wrote about Penn State's shortcomings in the Philadelphia region, more specific city related, not necessarily out where we are, because Penn State wasn't doing well in the city, and one of the things that they had, open, candid conversations with city coaches of what could they do better. And one of the things was they weren't offering their kids early enough. And I think when you see a blue chip recruit like Jayvin has become, you need to get in there early. So as soon as Pitt offered and all these other teams had that film, they see that offer and everyone's like, we need to check. If they haven't watched it yet, we need to watch it and we need to offer, because those early offers really stick in kids' minds. Like, these are the first people that believed in me. So I think that's one of those things, the early offers. And like you said, eventually when 2022 is signed, sealed, and delivered, which it just happened, December 15th was the early signing period, then a lot of focus will go to 2023. But usually those blue chip guys, a lot of them have already committed before 2022 is done. Like, the class is signed. 2023 is already, you have a handful at the big time schools. Already have a handful of the top
The
guys.
Exeter kid.
Right.
The
Joey Schlaffer.
Yeah.
Yeah. He already committed, a lot of the times you definitely hear these big time recruits committing at least before their senior year, if not, the winter before. They have an entire year left to go. And we could talk forever about the pros and cons of recruiting and the way things are and what we would change, because that would be an entire another show.
Yeah.
But it was awesome to see the Pitt offer come, and then I felt like every 6 hours.
Penn State held out for a while.
Yeah,
they weren't.
I was waiting, because me, I'm like, as soon as the Pitt offer came in, I was like, all right, Penn State, like,
Yeah.
I wanted you to beat Pitt. I wanted them to be first, but I saw the Pitt offer come in, and that makes my eye twitch. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I can't like that. There's just some schools, as a Penn State fan, that I just like, I can't let them beat us to the punch. The offer doesn't matter if you get the commitment down the road, but like when I saw the Pitt, when you put that out there, I was like, oh, come on, where is it? And then you started tweeting out a few more of the offers. I'm just like, come on.
I think Penn State came. They were like, they weren't until 8 or 9.
Yeah, they were towards the end of that like spree.
Yeah.
But when it came through, I was like, thank you, like finally. But that's been a lot of fun. To watch, and knowing that you're like connected and right in there, I'm just like waiting to see what else comes out. But it's been so much fun to watch that process, to have it happen so close. So the best of luck to you, and obviously to Jayvin, as this process unfolds, and for all the other guys that you're promoting, that just signed with the class of 2022, and that you're working towards 2023. Now, I know not all of them are your line guys.
Oh yeah.
But you're stocked with guys going through all levels of college football, and being able to continue to play football is such a blessing. And I know.
Well, I tweeted that out just a couple weeks ago. I said, regardless of level, guys, you got to understand, only 7% of high school football players get that opportunity to play after.
Right.
So even in D1, D2, D3, you're one of 7% if you get to play. So, enjoy and embrace that opportunity, because not everyone gets that.
Nope. Just have fun with it. I mean, that in the end, that's what the game is there for, is to have fun. If it can make you a better person or get you to a different career, it's a bonus. And obviously we know as coaches, we preach the life lessons that the sport teaches us over and over and over again. But yeah, absolutely incredible season, incredible year. And look forward to what's going to happen in 2022 with your Wyomissing Spartans. Before we finish here, let's talk a little bit of NFL, like I had promised at the top of the show. But you're a Denver Broncos fan, and we already established that you're born and raised Berks County. Had a 2-year diversion later, post college down to Annapolis and in the Baltimore area. But being from this area by and large for most of your life, not an Eagles fan. So how did the Broncos infiltrate your life?
It wasn't anything special. It was one of the first games I can remember as a kid. The Broncos were playing the Bears, and I like those, the old helmet.
Yeah, the blue, the lighter blue with the D,
with
the
the
Bronco
D.
jumping out. Yeah, the ones I want them to go back to now.
Correct.
I always loved their new stuff. When they came out in '96, was it? The first Super Bowl they won the back-to-back. That was when they debuted. I thought they were awesome. And actually, we used them my year at Wilson with the stripe.
Okay.
The red jersey that's hanging right there,
right there, yeah,
modeled off the Denver Broncos, a high school version of it.
Yeah.
But I always loved that style. Now that, we're
It's
25
time.
years, I think it's time to go back to those,
The best ones.
to the blue. Yeah, the lighter blue with the D and the jumping Bronco. I'm a stickler, not a stickler. I'm a fan of uniform and aesthetics and logos. Like, I love that stuff. So I appreciate what the Broncos have had now for 25 years, but I like the throwback aspect. I like when they go back. And I know with the one shell rule that thankfully is ending next year in the NFL, I know they tried to do it just with the Navy helmet, but it just doesn't pop as much when you don't have that blue, the lighter blue, not the Navy blue.
So it was just the first game I remember watching it as a kid, and I was like, I like that, and I like that uniform, I like that helmet. And then, obviously, it became John Elway.
Right.
And then I always wore 77. Might know, might not know, my favorite player of all time is Carl Mecklenburg.
Okay.
Number 77.
I didn't know that, but that makes sense.
So I have worn 77 since, there's been a year in mites that I didn't get it.
Yeah. Oh, those are the years.
There was a year, freshman year, I couldn't get it at Wyomissing, and freshman year at Westchester, I couldn't get it.
But when you could.
But every other year of football, I was 77.
Okay. Yeah.
Because of Carl Mecklenburg.
All right. I was 54 because of Zach Thomas. That was
I
my
always
guy,
say
so.
I liked Carl because he was positionless. He played everywhere. He played D-end, D-tackle, little linebacker. I never got to do that, but he was slow. He was white. He was unathletic, but he got the job done. So that was my
that checked all your boxes.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Well, that's good. That's
was where I
got the Broncos fandom. So was there was no one else in your life at the time that was pushing like the Eagles or the Steelers or anything like that?
Uncle is a big time Eagles fan, but you weren't gonna
didn't latch on to it then.
Not that I root against the Eagles. I have no problem with the Eagles. I'll root for them if they're not playing the Broncos.
Not playing Denver.
I'll root for the Steelers if they're not playing the Broncos. I'll root local. That's fine.
But you draw the line at Raiders, Chiefs.
I won't. Yeah.
And Chargers,
AFC
right?
West. No.
You got it. No, that's a no-go.
And I already shared the story off the air that I think the Eagles fans get a little bit of bad rap. My time in Annapolis, I would put the Ravens fans at least on par. When I went to a Ravens-Broncos game, I got harassed more than when I got to an
when you went
Eagles-Broncos.
to Philly. Yeah, well, that's another thing. And again, another thing we could have an entire show dedicated to is the unfair treatment of Philadelphia fans. Because I'm not an Eagles fan, and I've been to games where I got the wrath of Eagles fans. But I am a Flyers and Phillies fan, and I've been there, and I've been to games, and I have never seen anything awful happen to opposing fans. But I have seen many stories from all fan bases in all cities around the country, but it's only when it happens in Philly that it becomes a national thing.
Yeah.
And that's just something we'll never be able to shake. But that is what it is. I guess we embrace it to some extent now. But yeah. Oh well, you're not going to win them all, I guess.
Yeah.
But so Broncos. I don't know. What were your expectations for them entering the year? Did you think they were a playoff caliber team when the season started?
I thought maybe the defense could maybe get them in as where they were fighting to maybe a 7 or a 6.
Okay.
Still below average O-line play, both in the run and the pass game. When they were able to get the run game going, they got a shot. but it's inconsistent, and you know how big the quarterback play in the NFL is.
Do you favor Bridgewater or Locke? Are you a supporter of either of those? Or you just think
I'll support who's ever playing quarterback,
in.
but I don't have any faith in either of them.
Long term.
No, long term or to win a game. If the defense can hold them down, you know, how many games they've lost this year by a touchdown.
But we just saw it happen against the Raiders.
Again, yeah, and you hold the team to 17, you got a good chance. You know, 17-13, and they're losing. And that was many games this year for them when the defense is doing their part and you're getting nothing from the offense. And you can't put everything on the defense in the NFL. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, well, Justin and I say, and this, regardless of level of play, high school, college, at pro, we say if my defense holds an opponent to 21 or fewer, I want to win that game. I expect to win that game. My offense should be able to put up a matching 3 touchdowns or more. So when any time that the offense fails to score 20 points, that's a failure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we saw that last week between Broncos Raiders. Neither team got to 20, but one of the teams was able to get the win.
They're about, like I said, they're right about where I thought they'd be.
Right.
You know,
In the hunt, but not quite
they're
there.
They're an average football team, above average defense and below average offense.
Now you have the rivalry mentality. You don't like the AFC West team. Same thing with me. I don't like the AFC East teams, and it could depend on the year, and there could be some fluctuations. But is there one
Raiders?
It didn't even have to go all the way through the question. Raiders are always the most hated.
Oh, they're always number one. They're rivals, but like the Chargers, that is like the bottom
of the 3.
Yeah, it's not really.
So it's Broncos, Raiders, Broncos, Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers.
Correct.
To me, it's hard to hate on the Chargers when they look that good while playing football.
Yeah.
So if the Chargers aren't playing the Dolphins, I'll generally, and there's a few other outstanding things over the last handful of years, the Chiefs have jumped up in my rooting interest because of Chad.
Yeah.
And I like Andy Reid too. Like, how do you not? I just don't get people that don't like Andy Reid. From a football perspective, like regardless of the colors he's wearing, he knows how to get it done. Yeah. Yeah, so I love the way the Chargers look.
Even though the Chiefs are really dominant right now, it's still the Raiders.
Still the Raiders. I get that. Growing up, my intense hatred was of the Bills because Miami, even if they would beat them in the regular season or even win the division, the Bills were able to beat them in the playoffs or went farther, 4 straight Super Bowls.
Correct.
Didn't win any of them, so that's the big thing. I hated the Bills, but then, of course...
Then even worse.
Well, actually, for a couple years, it was the Jets. You know, the Jets snuck in there kind of at the end of the Bills' reign before this ridiculousness that I don't even...
Who was the quarterback then?
With the Jets?
Was it Boomer, Vinny? Who was that?
Vinny. It was Vinny. With Parcells. You know, he was like 98, 99, you know, that couple years before the Patriots. And Curtis Martin, right. So, and I know... Once
the Broncos got him 1 year.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I was very thankful for that. I believe it was a late field goal too.
I think Curtis Martin fumbled that game.
Yeah, I think you're right. Was that 98?
I think so. They thought they were going to beat Denver.
They had such a good year.
They had a great
defense. And I think it was a high scoring, like in the 30s, and I think it was like a field goal change, and the Jets lost, and I was very thankful for that as a Dolphins fan. But then the unthinkable happened, and we've got now a dynasty, nearly 2 decade that I can't even, it's so much worse because I have family up in New England, so, you know.
You can put them up on my list.
They're up there too?
They're up there on my list.
Those Patriots, huh? Yeah, wasn't fun. The Dolphins were good when I was younger, and then we hit this new millennium and things really... honestly, so what is today, 29th? So 2 days from now, I believe, is the 20th anniversary of Miami's last playoff victory.
Wow.
They haven't won a game since, I believe it was New Year's Eve 2001, I think, was the last time they won a playoff game. So it's been rough. But growing up, you know, those first 16 years and, you know, probably 8 or 9 of those I can remember being a fan, the Dolphins were one of the better teams in the AFC and especially the AFC East. and then all of a sudden we hit this brick wall called the New England Patriots once that Mr. 199 6th-round pick came along, and we haven't been able to get over that hump. Although we can still make amends. We already beat them once this year, and we play them in the final week, and that would be great for me.
For the playoffs, right?
But yeah. I mean, we're the 7th seed right now, but I don't know. That's being a Dolphins fan has been frustrating.
Yeah, it's been a rough division.
It's been a rough. I mean, I'm a huge Dan Marino fan.
Now the Broncos are going to go through that for the next decade.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least you got it. You got the 2 with Elway there at the end, and then you got the pick-me-ups. Going there twice with Peyton and getting one, which is a funny thing. I don't know how often you listen to the show, but I wasn't a Peyton Manning fan early. When he first came in the league, whatever. But then, there was times where I was like, he wasn't my guy. And then when people started getting on him about not winning it, I think my Marino love kind of transferred, and I was like, it's not a one-man game. It is not. So I don't like the Peyton Manning can't win the big one. And then he got there with the Colts, and then was able to get that one with you with Denver. So now I'm a huge Manning guy now.
Keep my fingers crossed somehow. Rodgers or Russell Wilson.
Someone comes available.
Somehow, some way. This has been a long run of, I was used to Elway.
Right.
And then Peyton Manning, good quarterback plays, what I'm used to in Denver, and I haven't seen it for some years now.
Well, I feel like you're in that lull between Elway and Manning, like Brian Greasy.
Plummer was okay.
That's right, Jake Plummer,
Plummer was okay.
Kyle Orton.
And
they had their moments.
Yeah.
But I mean, you weren't getting Elway Manning level, which I mean, obviously, you say that out loud, and you're like, well, of course you're not getting. Those are Hall of Fame guys. Not every program is going to be like the Packers, where you have 2 Hall of Fame guys for 30 years. That's tough to do. As many teams.
You know what's scary is I think Mac Jones looks pretty good to me.
I know. Oh, let's not open that one. I don't.
I don't think New England's going anywhere for a while.
I think it probably depends on how long Belichick sticks around, because he just seems to have. I thought it was a rough year last year for him, and I was kind of like, well, maybe it was more Tom than Bill, but now I think Bill has them back fighting. I still don't think the roster is super talented, but the way this NFL season has gone, I don't know that you can count any team out. Of those 14 teams that end up making the playoffs, sure, there's going to be your favorites. Right now, Kansas City in the AFC looks like they're probably the team to beat, and Green Bay in the NFC. But we've seen over the years Green Bay fall in. I mean, 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play, they only have 2 titles.
2 titles, yeah.
And only been there 3 times, I think. Because Rodgers hasn't gone back and lost, right? He only went there and won. And Favre made it twice and lost to Denver. And had won the year before against the Patriots. It's like a circle. Everything is linked and together. 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play, and you only have 2 titles to show for it. I mean, many teams, mine included, would take that right now. Yeah. I'll take 2 titles in 30 years. That's fine, because I'm 37 and I haven't seen a championship. So, but
I think
it's
Dolphins
wide
are
open.
Going in the right direction.
I hope so. I'm still a Tua supporter. I know there are people that are not, but the injuries bother me more than some of the on-field play, because it's a long-term game. He's going to get better. I think he's just about to hit 16 starts, which used to be, 1 season. Mm-hmm. So he hasn't even played a full 2 or 3. I mean, you look at Peyton Manning's first year in the NFL was awful statistically. Yeah. Not saying he's going to be Peyton Manning, but you have to compartmentalize and look at these things. Everyone wants you to be a Hall of Fame caliber guy when you step on the field as a rookie, and that's not how it works. So I give him and the Dolphins staff another year. So, but a lot of big games coming up. Week 17, second to last week now. It's amazing to me how the field has been so bottlenecked and average. There's a bunch of teams that are 8-7 in both leagues fighting for the playoffs. So it should be an interesting week 17. A lot of fun games on tap. Should be interesting. We've already hit our hour mark, so I don't want to go any longer. I appreciate you joining me. Coach Steve O'Neill from Wyomissing Area Football. longtime Spartan, forever a Spartan. Also a Ram, though.
And our Golden Ram.
Golden Ram
Yeah.
from Westchester University. Appreciate you stopping by, talking football. Definitely get you back on the show. Maybe we can have you on an off-season version of the Bulldog Hour where we can kind of talk whatever we want, Berks football related. So we'll get back to you.
Get talking when the LL is official.
That's right. We need to talk about the LL football merger, which you alluded to a little bit, talking about film on these new opponents you'll be facing. But hopefully maybe this spring we can get you on an episode of the Bulldog Hour, and Justin, you and me can take a deep dive into the upcoming 2022 Berks football
I think it's a good
schedule.
thing for Berks County.
I do too. I was all about it when it was brought up. I think it was almost 5 years ago now when we first started to catch wind of it. From a Wilson perspective, it was a slam dunk. I'm glad eventually the LL teams got on board. I think most Berks was in on it too. I know there's some travel issues, but I think it makes the scheduling so much easier.
But how many times do you travel? Like I saw someone's. Can we get this for basketball? Basketball doesn't make sense.
Well, it's too many games.
Too many games. But football, you're traveling 5 times.
Right.
5 times. That's.
And some of them are still going to be against Berks teams.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they flip flop. If you have to go far one year, the next year they have to go far. It all evens out in the end. I think it's a good thing, and I'm glad it's happening. I'm very excited for that to happen, and it'd be interesting to get your point of view on Wyomissing, who will be Section 4, right?
It's gonna be
a battle.
It's gonna be a dog fight.
That Section 2 and Section 4 are stacked. So I'm very excited, and hopefully, finally, after multiple years of saying I'm coming to photograph a game, I can finally say, "Hey, I'm coming to photograph a game."
I said to Paul, what are you gonna do as far as coverage next year? Are you gonna go to the biggest LL game, or are you gonna go try to hit? Are you gonna hit the Berks teams in the area? How are you gonna?
Did he have an answer for you?
He's like, I don't know. I didn't even think about it.
Well, I talked to Mike about that when the season started. He has those pages about each of the Berks teams. He has a page. He's like, now I got to add all the LL teams. I got to add all the LL teams to it. And I was like, hey, anytime you can add statistics and history, I'm all for it. So it'll be fun. And it'll be interesting to see how the Berks coverage guys, do they stick to the Berks teams, or do they grow and just say, well, it's all Berks LL. I think Mike, Paul, Jim, and anyone else on the beat, Red and Eagle, they're always going to focus on the Berks team, the biggest game involving a Berks team.
Berks.
If there's a Berks on Berks, they'll be there most likely, unless there's a bigger Berks versus LL game that's happening, which we already kind of gotten with Wilson.
Correct.
If Wilson's playing the last few years, Manheim Township, that was usually a big game, and you would get a variety of writers for that. I think Berks on Berks will still be the big draws unless it's, what LL teams are with you in Section 4?
Well, the big ones is Cocalico and Lampeter Strasburg.
Okay, so Wyomissing Lampeter Strasburg, I want to see that game. I want that game covered if I can't go to it. Do you have your schedule yet?
Catholic.
I know you should. Do you know it off the top of your head?
I don't know.
Because I know they put that out like a year ago of what the schedules were going to be.
Berks Catholic is our first LL game. I know that.
That's not your last game?
No.
Oh, man.
Lampeter's the last game.
Is it? And do you know if that's home or away?
I don't remember that.
And where's Cocalico fit in there?
I think the end of the year is Cocalico, Weiser, Lampeter. Because Weiser's in our section too. So we got 3 Berks teams, us, Berks, and Weiser in our section. And then Cocalico and Lampeter are the other big ones.
Man, Lampeter's been on a roll,
on our
too.
schedule next year, we have 8 district playoff teams.
Wow. You still going to Pottsville just at the beginning of the year? Is that game 1?
I don't remember if it had to be game 1 or 2. I don't remember.
Okay, I know it's usually early. That's one that I would love to go to because I've never been to, and I've coached a pony middle school junior high game at that stadium, which was awesome, but I've never seen a high school game there. So that's one I'm always like, I got to get there. So, all right. Well, Steve, thank you so much for coming and talking mostly high school football, a little college recruiting and NFL there at the end. Appreciate you pinch hitting for Justin. And like I said, we'll have to get you back on the Bulldog Hour to talk about Berks football. So,
Hope I did a good job.
Oh yeah, excellent. Definitely a different point of view and vantage point than anything that Justin and I can provide when it comes to varsity high school coaching experience and especially the recruiting aspect. So really appreciate your insight there. And like you said, you're welcome to come back on the show anytime. If you got something you want to promote or get out there, you send me a message and we'll make it happen.
Sounds good.
All right, so this was episode 344 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Justin and I will be back this Sunday to talk all about the NFL's Week 17 as we approach the new year. And when we'll be speaking again, it will be the new year. So I hope everyone has a great New Year's Eve. I hope 2021 went better than you expected, and I hope 2022 is the same. So until next time, for Justin Raffoff and Coach Steve O'Neill, I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop. Woo-hoo! You can watch each weekly episode live on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. You can also rate and review us on many of these platforms as well. We'd love to hear from you. Send your emails to the Mays Sandwich Shop inbox at joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is a part of the JMNJR Radio Network, home to other productions such as The Bulldog Hour, Tangents with Friends, and Nat Chats with Dad. Until next time.